It's always a privilege to be in community with so many of you. Leaders who continue to champion inclusive workplaces and regional progress, even in times of complexity and change. As we open today's session, I want to begin by grounding us in the broader context that shaped this year's Vibrant Index 6.0. It was designed as a tool for learning and growth, an opportunity for employers to examine their diversity, equity, and inclusion practices with intention, transparency, and care. The release of this iteration of the index coincided directly with Executive Order 14151, and with it, an intensifies wave of scrutiny on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, especially for employers' contracts. We heard your concerns, and in response, Vibrant Pittsburgh conducted additional due diligence to ensure clarity of purpose in the diagnostic without compromising its integrity. Still, the national climate and the policy shifts within it had a very real impact on participation and ultimately the data itself. This context matters, and it's critical to how we interpret and use the findings going forward. This year, 60 employers completed the Vibrant Index 6.0. The sample includes a normal distribution of employer sizes, offering a representative cross-section of our regional workforce. Yet, anecdotal feedback and responses from our post-diagnostic assessments, both from participants and non-participants, suggest the current climate of uncertainty may have discouraged some from engaging in the cycle. That kind of hesitation speaks volumes, and it's important we take it into account moving forward. Before we move much further, I want to invite us all to pause, to center ourselves in both the weight and the opportunity of the moment we're in. Because what we'll explore today is not just data. It's a reflection of how our region's employers are responding to one of the most complex and consequential periods for workplace inclusion in recent memory. There are moments in every organization's journey, in every region's journey, when we are asked to make quiet, defining choices. Choices about who we are, what we stand for, and whether we lead with courage when the path ahead is unclear. The Vibrant Index 6.0 was developed and deployed in one of those moments. This year, we've seen a growing sense of caution around diversity, equity, and inclusion, shaped by national shifts, political rhetoric, and legal uncertainty. And yet, amid that environment, many employers still chose to step forward, to reflect, to measure, to lead. Today, we honor those choices, not as acts of compliance, but as acts of conviction. Because choosing to look inward to assess where we are and where we still need to grow remains one of the most powerful things an organization can do. This year's report does not offer easy answers, but it does offer a mirror, and it challenges us to ask, what does it really mean to create workplaces where everyone can thrive? How can we lead in a time when values and value must walk hand in hand? So as we begin this discussion, I encourage you to listen, not just as executives or professionals, but as stewards of culture. Each policy, each decision, each opportunity extended or withheld shapes not only our workplaces, but the future of our region. This is our moment, and what we choose to do with it will echo far beyond the walls of our organization. Let's begin. Before we dig into the findings of the diagnostic, We would now like to take a moment to highlight the 8 organizations that scored at or above the 95th percentile in 7 out of 9 pillar areas of the Vibrant Index diagnostic. Companies who earned the designation Vibrant Champions. This distinction does not convey perfection, but instead conveys leadership in cultivating inclusive workplace culture. The Vibrant Index 6.0 champions are Achieva, Ayers, Community College of Allegheny County, Schell Games, UPMC, Women's Center and Shelter of Greater Pittsburgh, and YWCA. One additional participant met the criteria for champion status, but chose not to be publicly recognized. Congratulations to each of you. Now, I am pleased to welcome Vibrant Pittsburgh's Senior Director of Program Innovation and Impact and the Principal Investigator for this year's Vibrant Index, Dr. Emiola Oriola Jr. Emiola will walk us through the key findings from our 2025 summary report. Emiola, thank you for your work and your diligence. You have the floor.
Thank you, Sabrina, and good morning, everyone. I'm not only excited to share our index summary with you, but invite you into our index story. The index is not merely a diagnostic tool, but a storytelling instrument that reminds us, as Sabrina previously mentioned, this work is not about achieving perfection, but rather refining our purpose, trusting the process, and measuring our progress as individual employers and as a collective region. And this year, while it is important to acknowledge those who have reached the Vibrant Champion status, we felt the need to tell the story of how our region has steadily improved, one pillar at a time. Why? Progress isn't only reflected in champion status, it also lives in the steady upward movement of those who are improving pillar by pillar. Which brings us to the new recognition we are excited to share, our Rising Stars. This designation is awarded to employers showing a 10% increase in at least one index pillar between iterations 5.0 and 6.0 of the diagnostic. The graph on the screen is a visual representation and a breakdown of the rising stars we saw this year. As we can see, out of 60 participating employers this year, not only were 45 of them returning participants from last year, a 75% return, but 29 out of 45, or 64%, were given the designation of a rising star. With rising stars representing 15 out of the 18 participating industries in this year's index, we can deduce that despite all of the cultural shifts taking place, the index is still a relevant resource for benchmarking in our region and an accurate barometer of growth when it comes to work inclusion. Now, before we dive deep into the data, let's take a step back and first highlight the sample. The Vibrant Index 6.0 sample was comprised of 60 organizations with a workforce collectively representing 93,787 full-time employees within our region, accounting for 7.6% of our regional workforce. Regarding the data around employer type, the nonprofit sector was not only the most prominently featured, accounting for 37 submissions, but had the most champions and rising stars, while benefits and policies was the lowest performing pillar for all 4 employer types. Written commitment and community engagement performed well. When we look at the data by employer size, We see a strong and nearly equal distribution across organizations of all sizes. Those with fewer than 50 employees, 51 to 250, 251 to 1,000, and over 1,000 employees. Across the board, a consistent theme emerged. Written commitment was the highest performing pillar, while benefits and policies saw the lowest performance. Lastly, we see that around employer industries, the sample was spread across 18 different industries, with social services leading the way at 12 employers, followed by education, environment, and financial institutions. Now, let us begin our journey together through the 9 pillars of work inclusion. And like all good road trips, ours will include a panoramic snapshot of our region, which we just did, pit stops in each pillar where we will rest, refresh, and reflect on what we are measuring, why it matters, where it impacts, and what it means. And finally, we will look at key scenic insights from your champions, not simply highlighting what they've achieved, but what it means to be a pillar leader, i.e., scoring at or above the pillar standards, and how they have navigated through various paths to build an inclusive workplace. Let's begin with written commitment pillar. What are we measuring? An employer's public commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion as achieved by signing a diversity pledge and publishing a non-discrimination policy. With 2 rising stars and 72% of participating employers achieving pillar leader status, written commitment is our best performing pillar. As we can see, employers with 51 to 250 employees perform the best in reaching pillar standards. Nonprofit and for-profit privately held employers perform the best in reaching pillar standards, and written commitment was the highest pillar score for the following industries: arts, education, government, media, philanthropy, professional and business services, real estate, social services, and technology. This data lets us know that why it matters is still very relevant, meaning that authentic, transparent, and public commitment sets a cultural tone, articulates how an employer plans to represent its internal and external stakeholders, illuminates how it views inclusion, and invites accountability for change. With 98% of participating employers reporting that they have written non-discrimination policy, it's clear that communicating not only where you stand, but also what you value remains important for both employees and the broader audience. Next on our journey is our benefits and policies pillar. What exactly are we measuring? Key employee benefits that have a significant impact on underrepresented and marginalized populations. It is indicative of the care that employers take to make work-life balance attainable for all employees. This assessment area is not intended to be comprehensive. Even with 4 rising stars, only 3% of participating employers reach pillar leader status, making benefits and policies our lowest performing pillar. Similar to written commitment, employers with 51 to 250 employees, as well as nonprofit and privately held for-profit organizations, performed best in this area. However, benefits and policies was the top scoring pillar only in the education and social services industries. Analyzing this data, We see that despite strong commitment to practices like pronoun inclusion, noted in 83% of participating organizations, the benefits and policies pillar reflects broader regional challenges in offering inclusive, holistic work-life benefits. Now that you've had a chance to engage with the report, we invite you to personally reflect on some of the key concepts by responding to this Slido question. Simply scan the QR code to participate. And as I give us a minute to scan, I'll read the question. What aspect of workplace inclusion do you value the most? Again, what aspect of workplace inclusion do you value the most? The options are fostering diverse perspectives and ideas, creating equal opportunities for career growth, ensuring everyone feels valued and respected, building a culture of psychological safety, and encouraging a healthy work-life balance for all employees. Again, please scan the QR code to participate. We want your reflections. And what do we see here? We see a tie between, nope, fostering diverse perspectives taking the lead. Also tied with ensuring everyone feels valued and respected. I'll give us a few more seconds for those still wanting to scan and participate in this reflective Slido question. We see encouraging a healthy work-life balance for all employees surging up, along with creating equal opportunities for career growth. We see building a culture of psychological safety in last place, but still present. With a few seconds left in our first Slido question, we see ensuring everyone feels valued and respected. I want to note that all of these options are relevant and fair. We just want to give you the opportunity to be reflective and share your perspective. Thank you to all those who have participated. And now, it is my pleasure to transition us to our first Fireside Chat with Vibrant Pittsburgh's President and CEO, Sabrina Saunders Mosby, and one of your Vibrant Index 6.0 champions, Women's Center and Shelter of Greater Pittsburgh. Sabrina, the floor is yours.
Well, hello. It is so wonderful to have you with us this morning. Nicole Molinaro, President and CEO of the Women's Center and Shelter.
Sabrina, it is an absolute delight and honor to be here today. Thank you so much for having us.
Well, congratulations, Vibrant Champion.
Thank you very much. We're very proud.
Absolutely. We're going to just have a small chat. I wanted to dig in a little bit deeper about the work that you've been doing. So first, share with us a bit about what's gained the most traction in your efforts to build an inclusive and engaged workforce.
Sure, absolutely. So, Women's Center and Shelter, of course, provides domestic violence services to all survivors of domestic violence, which oftentimes is overlooked because our name includes the word women, but we do provide to all survivors of domestic violence. Really what has gained traction, I think, stems from the fact that we are genuinely invested in diversity. We know that increasing diversity and upholding equity really for both our individual staff and our clients and everybody involved with the organization, it makes it better. And so that is really what gains the most traction, is that genuine commitment to improving everything that we do from investing in our people. So that's, and then if we're talking specifically, we do a lot. So our building, for instance, is really the first very visual commitment to diversity. We have a lot of different subtle and very obvious commitments to diversity throughout the building. So folks who come in, whether they are clients, staff, board members, visitors, whomever it is, they notice, right? And they feel safe and they feel good. So that's one very obvious part. We also have a training hub of trainings that are constantly available. So not only do we promote trainings, we do our own trainings. We have a training hub that if you miss the training, you can go ahead and sign in and see the training at any point. And it really helps to have that ongoing commitment to really encouraging our own learning.
Absolutely. And I mean, of course, obviously, making Vibrant Pittsburgh champion status this year. I'm really interested in what's on your radar now, something that you're maybe refining or planning to do.
Right, absolutely. So, one of the kind of tactical things is that we do have some staff who are looking at starting an employee affinity group for working parents. So, and as the mother of a tween, I will say I think we should start maybe a support group for tweens. Yeah, there you go. As they get older. But, in all seriousness, though, and you certainly indicated this in your introduction, we are also very seriously looking at what is happening in the political climate, how that impacts our clients, which it does immensely, and how it impacts our work. So we're bringing together a group of board of directors who are interested in our key leadership team to really look at, review and respond to what is happening in today's world and how we can be an organization that still focuses on serving all survivors of domestic violence equitably, and continuing our improvement, and still do that within this environment.
Absolutely. And obviously at Vibrant Pittsburgh, we are excited to be a partner in this work and to offer resources to help start or to refresh affinity groups, and of course to offer resources in this time as organizations are thinking about change and also the uncertainty of the climate as well.
Yes, thank you.
What practice or mindset shift do you think others could adopt to help build momentum in their own work as you think about what you're doing in yours?
Yeah, so I think there's a few things. I think that first of all, again, that genuine commitment is really important, because if you don't have that genuine commitment from, every part of the organization, then it's really not going to be able to work. So we, for instance, have a constant communication with our staff through our all hands meeting, which are our monthly meetings for all staff. And in that, we always have a section that goes over the 4 pillars of Women's Center and Shelter of Greater Pittsburgh. And those include safety. It includes sanctuary, which is how we provide trauma-informed care. It includes Women's Center business systems, which is our business model we follow. And these are in no order, of course, DEI as a really critical pillar. So that communication of what's happening within our Equity in Action Collaborative, which is a board and staff collaborative, what's happening in our diversity committee, and then just what's happening within the organization. That sort of communication, I think, is very important to remind everybody on an ongoing basis. This isn't just something that we bolted onto the organization. It is absolutely baked into our work. So we do that. And then, really looking at all aspects, and I know this was covered in the survey, but all aspects of safety. So staff have to feel safe in all regards, not just physically, but psychologically safe, emotionally safe, morally safe, to be able to really talk about improvements that they believe should happen within the organization in any regard, and especially in regards to DEI. So we want to really create a culture that encourages that safety in all aspects, so that we know that our staff feel comfortable at any point saying, hey, why don't we do this a little bit differently? Or, hey, here's a great idea, because our staff they're how we do our work. We are only here because of them. And what they have to say is incredibly important to us. So creating an environment where that is possible, I think, is critical.
So it sounds like that the work of inclusion isn't just a part of your culture. It's a part of the way that you do business.
It is. It absolutely is. And it always has been. I mean, 25 years ago, we were doing ongoing sessions on unpacking the backpack of white privilege 25 years ago, so we've not stopped. It's critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So for other members and community leaders that want to find out more about how to become engaged or support, what's a way for them to get in contact with the center?
Sure, absolutely. So our website is probably the best way, wcspittsburgh.org. Our hotline is another way that they can actually get anybody within administration, not just for crisis calls, and that's 412-687-8005. And there's info@wcspittsburgh.org. Lots of different ways to get us, and we would love to talk about it.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again.
Thank
on
you.
being a vibrant champion, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, and thank you for making this possible, because we really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Now let's get back to the data.
Thank you, Sabrina. Next on our journey is Employee Networks pillar. Now, what exactly are we measuring? An employer's commitment to convene and engage with voluntary employee business-led groups comprised of individuals based on common interest, backgrounds, or demographic factors such as gender, race, or ethnicity, commonly known as employee business resource groups, or EBRGs. EBRGs should be open to ally participation, and it should also be noted that they are not appropriate for every employer. The success of an EBRG depends upon a variety of factors, such as climate, size, and structure. With 10 rising stars, yet only 28% of participating employers achieving pillar leader status, the Employee Networks pillar emerges as one of our most nuanced pillars. This pillar includes employers that provide both internal EBRGs opportunities and support for external participation, as well as those that only support external EBRGs. Among organizations with both internal and external EBRGs, those with over 1,000 employees, typically for for-profit, privately held companies, perform the best. In contrast, among employers that only support participation in external EBRGs, the highest performing organizations were nonprofits with 50 or fewer employees. This data shows that while fewer than 50% of participating employers have internal EBRGs, many of those without them aren't standing still. They're actively finding ways to connect their employees to external resources that build community and offer support. In fact, about 52% of participants reported that their leadership encourages employees to participate in external professional groups. Why does this matter? EBRGs, whether internal or external, foster belonging, connection, and acceptance. They help employees access the network's information and opportunities that are critical for engagement, advancement, and retention. In short, supporting EBRG participation strengthens the workplace, and that's why it matters. Next on our journey is our leadership pillar. Now, what exactly are we measuring? Employer structures, including diversity, equity, and inclusion councils and committees, and engagement within the structures that provide enhanced access to decision makers. With 7 rising stars and 12% of participating employers reaching pillar leader status, leadership remains one of our most critical pillars because it directly shapes workplace culture and climate. The data shows that the highest performing organizations in this pillar were mid-sized employers, especially nonprofits in the social services sector. What does this tell us? In mission-driven, mid-sized organizations, especially those serving people and communities in need, leadership must do more than believe in the why. They must actively communicate it. When executives, decision makers, and hiring managers clearly lead with purpose, they help build a culture of ownership, one that's foundational to a healthy and thriving workplace. And now, our second audience question for reflection. I'll give us a minute to scan the QR code to answer as I read the question. Which leadership style do you believe best supports a healthy work environment? Again, which leadership style do you believe best supports a healthy work environment? Your options are empathetic leadership, one who listens, supports, understands employees. Transformational leadership, one that inspires innovation and growth. Collaborative leadership, one that values teamwork and shared decisions. Servant leadership, one that empowers and serves others. And authentic leadership, one that leads with transparency, honesty, and consistency. I'll give us a moment to vote and participate. And just to mention, none of these are exhaustive. You don't have to choose one or the other in your work life and workplace. We're just giving you the options to see which one best suits you. And what do we see? Authentic leadership, one that leads with honesty, transparency, and consistency, is in the lead with over 50%. Right behind is servant leadership, one that empowers and serves others, followed by collaborative, and we see transformational leadership at the tail end. I'll give us a few more seconds to participate. Please scan the QR code and share with us what leadership style you believe best supports a healthy work environment. And it looks like authentic leadership is leading the way with around 50%, followed by servant, collaborative, empathetic, and transformational. Thank you to those who participated. And now, it is my pleasure again to transition us to our second fireside chat with Sabrina and one of your Vibrant Index 6.0 champions, Schell Games. Sabrina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Emiola. Lauren Reed, Vice President of Human Resources at Schell Games. Welcome.
Hi, Sabrina. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh, it's so good to see you.
Yeah.
And congratulations.
Thank you so much. We've been so fortunate to have partnered with Vibrant for several years now, and it's been such a great experience.
Oh,
So.
we're glad to have you as a member and excited to celebrate with you as a champion and to have a little chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's get into it a bit. Let's talk about what has gained the most traction in your efforts to build an inclusive and engaged workplace at Schell Games.
Absolutely. One thing that comes from the top from our CEO is understanding the need for transparency at an organization and also the challenge that people have as you grow and as people don't, the organization grows and it gets bigger and you don't know people quite as closely as you did when the organization was 5 people or 20 people, is being able to speak truth to power and providing opportunities for that. So we've done that for many years, but it's really ramped up in the last, I would say, year or so in providing spaces and prioritizing spaces for people to be heard, share concerns. We had an open dialogue at the beginning of this year with one of our clients was making some changes, and we really wanted to provide a space for people to react and share their thoughts and their feelings about that. And it was really great to have Jesse as the CEO really share his perspective on it and understand, okay, these are the values that are important to our organization and how do these interact with each other. I think one of the other things too, when we first started participating in the Vibrant Index, 2 things came out of one of our first years, and we created an inclusion advisory committee where it's you don't have to be a member of it. It's really hard to ask people to do things on top of their job, but again, providing a space for people to share thoughts and ways that we can improve, both internally as we're communicating our values externally. And so we created that, and out of that came our written commitment to DEI. And so we've had that for many years. It's been an important pillar of our organization and value, but really making that as crisp and clear as we can. And so as there's been a lot of discussion in our society about DEI and what does that mean, and now there's a lot of, I mean, there's always been a lot of feelings about DEI, but it's very hot button right now. And so one of the things that we did was we brought it to our Inclusion Advisory Committee, and we're like, hey, this work is really important to us. What's going to make us most effective in continuing to do the work? Is it keeping the acronym DEI? Is it evolving the language? Because language is always evolving, and there have been a lot of pieces in that have gone joined with DEI. So justice, accessibility, belonging, exactly. And so figuring out, okay, what does DEI look like to us, and continue. And that's a question we always ask. And then also, what is going to make us most effective in doing the work? And so it was a great discussion with our Inclusion Advisory Committee. And it was really interesting because people are like, no, this is the time to double down on DEI and how important it is to us in communicating that. And not that we wouldn't do that, but it was, again, a really great dialogue of, as language evolves, maybe there is something that's going to coalesce, because a lot of people are changing that acronym in their organization in various ways and for various reasons. And so for us, it's like, okay, we're taking a little bit of a wait and see approach, because maybe there is a better way. One of our principles as an organization is always ask if there's a better way. And so
I like that.
Yeah, no, it's really guiding, and not change for change's sake, but as we're humans and we grow and the organization grows, it's always good to check and say, is this the right way of doing things for us at this stage? And
And there are so many organizations that are having that exact conversation, or, they've had the conversation, it's evolving, and they're making decisions as it relates to how they're going to move forward. And you mentioned participating with the index in prior iterations. And so with that, when you think about asking those questions, right, and reflecting on the growth that you've had in this work, what's on your radar right now? Like, what are you thinking about refining or planning on deepening at the organization in this work?
Absolutely. One of the things that has become particularly important to our workforce is the topic of neurodivergency. And so, and that covers that's a very broad topic. There's a lot included in that. And so we have really taken that as a training topic in priority for us this year. Okay, what does neurodivergency mean? And what is neurotypical? And so we've been doing studio-wide trainings on that. And then also our L&D manager, she has plans for a drip campaign, because training is never a one and done.
Absolutely
It's
not.
continuous communication and reinforcement, because people can only take in so much information at a time. So really continuing that messaging and that continuity and awareness and again, dialogue.
Absolutely.
And it's really important for us as an organization to, and going back to my first answer, difficult conversations and having them in a way that is constructive. It is a skill that you can learn and build. And one of our other principles is treat everyone with respect. And so those all combined together help foster that environment where people can both share and listen and engage.
Absolutely. Training and development in this space is vital. And obviously at Vibrant, we provide a series of resources related to education. And I'm really encouraged by the work that you are planning to do. And obviously that has brought you to this work of a Vibrant champion leader in the region. We're always excited to spend time with you. If you want to share, how can people find out more about Schell Games?
Oh, absolutely. Schellgames.com. And you'll see the aforementioned DEI statement. And one thing was interesting as we were having that discussion, it really centered around okay, the content is great. We crafted this several years ago. We want to periodically make sure that as language evolves, we're updating it. But people were more weighing in on the structure, and it's like,
Yes.
oh, this could be more readable. And so that was really encouraging. It's like, okay, the content is still good, still relevant. But yes, our website, and you can fill out a contact form. We have open houses every year for the community, and that's always a great place. We have a beautiful space that's in the South Side. And yeah, if you want to come visit us, sign up for our open house.
Well, thanks for the invitation, Lauren, and congratulations
Thank
again,
you.
a Vibrant Champion. Okay, let's dig back into the data.
Thank you, Sabrina, and thank you, Lauren. Next on our journey is our training and education pillar. What does this measure? Who receives diversity, equity, and inclusion training? What training topics are offered, and how diversity, equity, and inclusion training is executed within the employer's standard personnel development practices. With 28 of participating employers achieving pillar leader status, training and education is one of our most consistent pillars. We found that organizations with 251 to 1,000 employees perform the highest in this pillar. Like in the leadership pillar, these tended to be nonprofits or privately held for-profits organizations, mostly in the social services sector. What's especially noteworthy here is that this pillar also had 9 rising stars, tied for the most in this year's cohort. This lets us know that the standard for engaging employee competence and confidence around healthy workplace inclusion practices is alive and thriving in this climate, especially when it comes to leadership seeing its value, with around 80% of participating employers offering diversity, equity, and inclusion centered training to their managers with direct reports within their organization. This is why it matters. Training is essential to employee professional development, and it sets a clear standard and expectations for practices within an employer's culture as well. Next on our journey is our data and accountability pillar. What exactly does this measure? The demographic data collected relating to compensation, role, promotion, recruitment, retention, and exit interviews. With 5 rising stars and 13% of participating employers achieving pillar leader status, our data and accountability pillar revealed some very interesting reflections during this iteration. What we see is that participating organizations with more than 1,001 employees, for-profit privately held employers, and the education industry perform the best, reaching the pillar standard. While we can deduce that employers with a large employee base and those that aim at generating revenue tend to have the capacity and the motive to collect and analyze data at both macro and micro levels, we see that the sole industry that reached the pillar standard is education. This is representative in the fact that 48% of participating employers affirmed that their organization offered a non-binary or self-identification option on all forms asking about gender and legal sex. This lets us know that while many industries are still learning how to collect data on key factors affecting retention, having metrics measure the effectiveness of their efforts can be a small step that leads to a meaningful change. Why does this matter? Because understanding data trends and the challenges employees face helps employers adjust their systems to prevent employees from feeling disconnected and undervalued. And now it is my pleasure to transition us to our third fireside chat with Sabrina and one of your Vibrant Index 6.0 champions, AIRS. Sabrina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Emiola. I am so excited to have with me this morning Jill Porter Scott, Director of People X, Benefits, Culture, and Inclusion at AIRS.
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for doing this. This is super exciting, and I'm just happy to be part of this great group of folks who are sharing this this wealth of knowledge of what they're doing.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Vibrant Champion. We are going to have a little chat about some of the things that contributed to your Vibrant Champion status. But first, if you want to share a little bit about what's gained the most traction in your efforts to build an inclusive and engaged workplace
Sure.
at AIRS.
Sure. So we really kind of pivot and our areas of focus kind of depending on where we see the needs and through some of this Vibrant Index work that we do, where we get feedback. And so for the last few years, a bit having to do with coming out of COVID, the hybrid work schedule, we've really focused on our recruiting, our training, our onboarding, trying to make it as inclusive as possible so that our employees who are remote or are coming into the office just a few days a week are able to really feel this really strong culture that we've been building for over 40 years. We have a bunch of long-term employees with us who have been there from the beginning, some of them. And so it's really, they've all contributed to it and practice it, and our leadership does as well. So we really wanted to focus in on how we're recruiting. We have this great talent acquisition specialist who just knows our culture so well. And you can just really, you know it when you see it. And we have some cultural pillars, of course, that we use to help support what we're looking for within our culture and the AIRS DNA that we say.
AIRS DNA.
AIRS DNA, yeah. That we use very often whenever we're talking through these sorts of things and our interview process. So we have really strong interview practices. We make sure that we're consistent with that. We make sure that we are not just looking for someone who's got some great experience, but it's really going to be a culture fit. And we hold ourselves pretty accountable to that. Additionally, with our onboarding, we spent a lot of time the last year and a half or so really thinking, okay, how can we ensure that these new hires are really being heard and we're getting the feedback we need to help if there's a need to pivot.
Mhm.
And so we have an onboarding program that runs 12 to 18 months with multiple touch points along the way, surveys and feedback, and we're working with the managers and just making sure that these employees are feeling included and able to hear from us of like, hey, we want you to be you. We want you to bring your most authentic selves. We want you to understand that that is what we value and how you can contribute to this company that's been around for so long. And then the training. We have a very immersive training program for our new hires. They come into Pittsburgh. It's a 4 or 5 day session. They meet with just a ton of our employees and our leadership. And, we talk a lot about our efforts in this space with how inclusion is so important and what diversity looks like
Yes.
and how it's diversity of thought, it's diversity of approach, it's our look and feel of what comprises our employee population. So
Okay. So for some of the folks that join because they are interested in working for organizations that are vibrant champions and that have cultures of inclusion, are you hiring?
yeah, of course we are. Yeah. So we're a global relocation company. And so that's the other thing that really helps drive this with us is that our employees are dealing with people all over the globe and are in the most difficult time when they're relocating and understanding that the importance of having this lens that we look through and we believe in around what inclusion and how that impacts our transferees.
Absolutely. Well, check out Jobsburg if
Yeah,
you're looking
AIRS-
to see what
AIRS.com.
AIRS has available.
AIRS.com.
What's on your radar now, right? Something you're refining or that you're planning to deepen around this work?
Sure. So we are a hybrid work environment right
Okay.
now. And so we have a lot of on-the-job training where, before COVID, someone could be, in a challenging situation. They could overhear a phone call. They could overhear someone getting trained, and they could just pick up through more of that natural learning. And in hybrid work, we have folks, that are coming in 2 days a week, and we have our West Coast office actually closed over COVID. So now we just hire on the West Coast, in wherever they may be. So how do we create this inclusion? How do we maintain this culture that has been our heartbeat for
Sure.
40 some years, and making sure that we're doing that. So so that's really been a big area of focus, of really trying to pivot again on, we need to be able to explain this culture. Our cultural pillars are a big piece of that. We have that as part of a equal weighting in our reviews.
Mhm.
So our performance reviews, you're judged with your performance, your goals, but then also how are you living and breathing the culture? So it's a 50-50 split, which I think is really important, because it just demonstrates again our commitment to this culture, and making sure that our employees, no matter whether they're in an office sitting next to somebody, or they're remote because they're in a state where we don't have an office, that they can still feel all that, right? And they understand the importance of it.
Absolutely. I mean, I even think about the way that we have transitioned from the time of COVID in 2020 to a virtual report to the region,
Mhm.
in person, now
Mhm.
back to virtual,
Mhm.
to accommodate the different ways in
Yeah.
which our members and community members are working, and to be able to provide resources and to connect them to this work. So kudos for deepening that work, and for really thinking about how you can
Mhm.
advance in that particular space. And as we think about that, right, the ways that you are innovating in this work, what practice or mindset shift do you think others could adopt
Yeah.
to build momentum in their own work?
I would say it's probably maybe a three-pronged approach.
Okay.
I'm not going to say anything really profound here. I mean, executive leadership, buy-in, commitment, setting the tone, believing in it, and making sure that they understand, those leaders understand the impact that they have at all times, right? And so that is huge, and it can be a challenge if that mindset isn't there. And so for those folks who are trying to get something going, but they're having that stumbling block,
Yes.
just trying to make it relatable, I think, as much as you can to the leaders, trying to make it as tied to business as you can, so that if they're very business minded, as our leaders tend to be, like, this is going to improve our business and exponentially, if we can make people and create this culture that feel very welcome and included, and that we are trying our best to be as fair as we can in that space. So I think that executive leadership buy-in is just so critical. For us, these cultural pillars that we live and breathe are also, because it makes things very easy. Employee relations, very easy. It comes down to these cultural pillars that we have. When we're looking to see how our leaders are leading, are they showing up in all those spaces, those 5 pillars. So I think that's the foundation for all of it for us. And part of that is these cultural pillars are internal, but also external to our clients. We're bringing this, there's not 2 different sides here, right? It's all one. So we present ourselves the same internally and externally, and we want to make sure that that's really clear, and our transferees feel that. And then just not thinking that we have it all figured out and we're done, right? This is not check that box, right? This is very much a reflection point, engagement. Our engagement surveys, we talk about our culture, we want to hear the feedback, and are there pockets that maybe that's not happening? Okay, great. Well, then let's kind of dig in there and why it's not working, right? But so we need that feedback, and it has to be, our approach to get the feedback has to be very real and be received very well. And so how we obtain the feedback, and what we do with the feedback, and how we treat it is really critical, because if any of those areas we fall down in, then it doesn't feel authentic, right? It just feels like we're phoning it in, we're just checking a box, and that's not what we're doing.
Absolutely not. And as we say with the index, it is purely a mirror. And it's clear that you understand that in the work that you're doing at AIRS. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jill, for being with us
Thanks for
today.
having
And
us.
we
Really
look forward
appreciate it.
to continued partnership with you.
Thank you.
All right, let's get back to Emiola and the rest of the report to the region.
Thank you, Sabrina, and thank you, Jill. Next on our journey is our talent, recruitment, and retention pillar. Now, what exactly does this measure? Intentional strategies for inclusive recruitment, workforce satisfaction assessment, and optimal retention. Despite having only 18% of participating employers achieving pillar leader status, our talent recruitment and retention pillar highlighted that there is more than meets the eye when it comes to growth during this iteration of the index. With a sample high of 9 rising stars, what we see is that participating organizations with 251 to 1,000 employees reached pillar standard, and despite the typical challenges for nonprofits and organizations within social service industries, such as salary competitiveness, limited resources, and burnout, they also performed the best, reaching the pillar's standard. Recent shifts in the social climate, along with industry-specific challenges, have made it difficult for organizations to find sustainable ways to build a workforce that reflects the diversity of their communities. Even so, we still see that 72% of organizations are still committed to offering a comprehensive strategy when it comes to hiring diverse and qualified talent. 62% currently offer or collaborate on educational or professional development programs that aim to ensure equitable opportunities and support for all employees. And 63% have administered an employee engagement survey in the last year. This lets us know that recruiting and retaining top talent reveals deeper insights upon closer examination. This pillar matters because cultivating a culture of equitable access to advancement and success requires the removal of bias and barriers from all stages of the employee life cycle, so all can connect, compete, and become a part of your work community. Next on our journey is our supplier diversity pillar. Now, what exactly does this measure? Employers' approaches to supplier selection and resource allocation pertaining to minority and women-owned businesses. Despite being one of the lowest performing pillars in our last index iteration, supply diversity has seen a shift this past year, with 43% of participating employers achieving pillar leader status. Despite economic uncertainty and social challenges around supply diversity, this pillar also saw 8 rising stars in the last index. Employers with 251 to 1,000 employees, nonprofits, and those in the social service and education sectors performed the strongest in this pillar. But the key insight lies in the data. 62% of participating organizations collected and analyzed information on the diversity of their current suppliers. Why does this matter? Because understanding how and where money is spent helps employers engage a broader range of suppliers, strengthening supply chains, breaking down barriers, and expanding access and opportunity. Our final stop on our journey is our community engagement pillar. Now, what exactly does this measure? The means and vehicles an employer utilizes to participate in the communities they are in. With 4 rising stars and 63% of participating employers achieving pillar leader status, the community engagement pillar is one of our most steady pillars to date. Employers with 251 to 1,000 employees and nonprofit organizations continue to be the top performers in this pillar. What's new this year is the range of leading industries, which now include not just social services and education industries, but also environmental and financial services. This shift reflects what we've seen in policy now playing out in practice. 93% of participating organizations invest in community projects, organizations, and/or initiatives. And 73% offer or sponsor educational programs that support community development. This dual approach, both participating in and sponsoring community engagement, demonstrates how holistic and impactful this pillar can be. Community engagement matters, not only because it fosters creativity, innovation, and a sense of belonging among employees, but also because it helps shape a regional culture that values and celebrates diverse experiences. And with that, it is time for our third and final audience question for reflection. As always, scan the QR code on the screen to answer. I'll give you a moment to do so as I read the question. What's the most important long-term impact of engaging with your community through work? Again, what's the most important long-term impact of engaging with your community through work? Your options are stronger professional network and career opportunities, increased job satisfaction and personal fulfillment, better collaboration and innovation within the workplace, enhanced company culture and a sense of belonging, or personal growth through knowledge sharing and mentorship. Again, these questions aren't exhaustive and you don't have to choose one in your own workplace, but we would like to see what's the most prominent and strong in our session today. And what do we see? We see better collaboration and innovation within the workplace taking the lead, followed by enhanced company culture and a sense of belonging. We see stronger professional networks and career options tailing it, And now we still see a tie between better collaboration and innovation and enhanced company culture and a sense of belonging. I'll give us a few more seconds to participate by scanning the QR code and letting us know your perspective on what the most important long-term impact of engaging with your company through your work is. And we see that enhanced company culture and a sense of belonging finishes with the lead, followed by better collaboration and innovation within the workplace. Thank you to all who have participated. And now it is my pleasure to transition us to our fourth Fireside chat with Sabrina and one of your Vibrant Index 6.0 champions, YWCA. Sabrina, the floor is yours.
Thank you again, Emiola. I am so pleased to have sitting here with me Dr. Angela Reynolds, who serves as Chief Executive Officer at the YWCA of Greater Pittsburgh. Thanks so much for being here with us today, and congratulations.
Well, thank you. One, thanks for having the index, and thanks for having this opportunity for us to speak about our work and really more, not just our work, but our culture and how we integrate the two. So
Absolutely. We're going to talk a lot about culture. As we talk about culture and as we reflect on culture, can you share a bit about what has gained the most traction in your efforts to build an inclusive and engaged workplace when you think about your culture?
yes, and so I will say building an inclusive and engaged workplace is a priority for us, but I need to make you understand that it's rooted in our mission and who we are as an organization. So YWCA Greater Pittsburgh is committed to eliminating racism, empowering women, but then also promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity. And so when we think about who we are as an organization and what we do, it's important for us to model that internally. So before we go out and advocate on anything, we always ask ourselves a question: what are we doing inside that reflects what we're advocating for outside?
Absolutely.
So when we think about this aspect of this question in terms of what's gained the most traction, we have really been focused on the fact that we take an equity lens with a trauma-informed approach, and we highlight neuro inclusion and neurodiversity. Equity lens, you can get that naturally from our mission. Of course, that's part of it's actually part of the mission statement. Going deeper than that is to say that people are coming from situations and circumstances. They're bringing that into not only how they're coming to us and interacting as partner families, but also our employees are bringing that into work. So not only do we need to think about a trauma-informed approach in terms of how we interact with others, but that trauma-informed approach also needs to be a part of our policies and practices.
Okay.
And then more recently, we've been highlighting neuroinclusion because we want to make sure that when we're talking about diversity, we're being inclusive in what diversity means.
Okay, absolutely. So what you just shared reminded me of something that one of our other Vibrant Champions mentioned, and it's that an area that they're working on deepening is around neurodiversity. And so it wouldn't be, yes, it wouldn't be a Vibrant Pittsburgh conversation if I didn't suggest that we create some areas of opportunity and recognize the synergy there and
Yes.
put you two together. So we'll do that.
Make it happen. Yeah.
But so, we know that's on their radar. What's something that you're refining and working to deepen at YW?
We are focused now on our advocacy agenda. And so as we take this more streamlined approach to our advocacy, we're recognizing if we're going to really be respectful of our employees, we can't do everything. So I can't have my team members going to everything and every place.
Sure.
We talk about work-life balance, but we also need to talk about just what does it mean to take care of yourself, which means there has to be a break at some point in time. So with that, we are streamlining our advocacy and our focus is on economic security and how do we advance economic security. And as we're, again, thinking about what that means in terms of our workplace practices, our compensation, our focus has been on, we're still working for pay equity. We're still working on transparency. We're looking at these pillars of how do we have more workplaces in their hiring that are putting somewhere early what the pay, and even if you don't talk full compensation package, at least say something about the pay so we're not wasting each other's time. So someone knows early on in the process what that's going to be. But then also doing a compensation review. Again, we model it. We advocate for it. So doing compensation reviews within our organization as we're also advocating for it. And another part of that pay equity has been the salary history aspects of it. But we're also going deeper in terms of that economic security work and thinking about, you had women center and shelter. So what does it mean in terms of financial abuse and what are the longer term impacts of that? And then how do we counter that? And so what are the policies and practices that need to be put in place? And the last thing I'll say is that it's important for us to recognize local versus state versus federal.
Okay.
And so we advocate that you should vote in each and every election because local matters. There are decisions that are being made at the local level. Even though a lot of attention is being paid right now to what's happening at the federal level, we need to also think about the protections we have in Pennsylvania that are happening at the state level in that state level fight, and then also the local level that is helping to preserve us in terms of who we are as people, as residents, but also as organizations. So we're making sure that when we talk about economic security, we're also talking about civic engagement.
Absolutely. It's definitely a reminder of how important it is to understand what's happening, not just politically, but as it relates to areas of specific topics that you may even want to advocate for, or that you want to align yourself with organizations that are advocating on your behalf for. And before we close this conversation, I want to make sure you share a little bit about how people can get in contact with you all.
Yes.
But lastly, I would love to hear your perspective on a practice or a mindset shift that you think others could adopt, right? When we think about this work, a lot is changing, right? A lot of shifting priorities, a lot of changing language. But what shift do you think that others could adopt to build momentum in their own work?
Yes, and I know the inclusion word has already been used by those who chatted with you earlier.
Sure.
I'm going to use it again. So authentic inclusion, that is one that I believe is extremely important. And what I'll say as it relates to authentic inclusion is making sure that when we're talking about inclusion, inclusion is not just presence, it's also involvement. And so for some, it's like, You know, I'm being inclusive because you were invited to the meeting, but I don't have a voice and I'm not part of the agenda. So authentic inclusion also is intentional to say, how do I do work that is with and by and not just for? And so coming into this
Yes.
space means that there will be times that someone has to yield their space in order for someone else's perspective to rise to the top and to be heard. That is something that can be modeled. And I still believe you can have a meeting, get through all of the agenda items and allow and make space for everyone. The other piece of that is growing and providing those professional development opportunities so people feel comfortable speaking in the setting. Because the other thing is we say authentic inclusion, I invited you and then you didn't speak. But then also, have you established a culture where people know that they actually can have a voice and there won't be retribution for them speaking their minds? So bringing in and building in all of that, and what does that mean sometimes in terms of people may speak in different ways, and let's not just start censoring in the moment, but actually listen and hear. And all of that comes into what we're talking about in terms of authentic inclusion.
I love that. I love that. What's sticking with me is how do we do things that are with and by and not just for? That's wonderful. Before we close, how can members and community leaders that are with us and that will watch later contact you at the YWCA and get more engaged and involved with your work?
Yes, I would say start by going to our website, ywcapgh.org. If you go onto our website, you can be connected to a contact form, our social media pages. Please follow us on social media.
Yes.
We also have a blog now. So on our website, you can actually get to our blog. And I'm up there as well. So if you want to reach out to me directly, you can, areynolds@ywcapgh.org.
Thank you so much for being here and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Okay, let's head back to Emiola.
Thank you, Sabrina, and thank you, Dr. Reynolds. All participating employers in this year's index will receive their individual participant reports within the next 2 weeks. You will also have the opportunity to schedule a post-consultation meeting with Vibrant Pittsburgh's Programs and Services team, where we'll help interpret your results and offer guidance on how to navigate the pillars more effectively moving forward. If you're interested, a link to schedule a post-consultation will be available via email within the next 2 weeks. Also, Vibrant's upcoming events that are open to the public are our Summer Speaker Series on July 30th and August 20th, 2025. And now, it is my pleasure to transition us back to Sabrina for her call to action and closing remarks. Sabrina, the floor is yours.
As we close today's report to the region, I want to thank each of you, not just for being here, but for your continued engagement in this vital work. This year's Vibrant Index is more than a reflection of best practices. It's a reflection of what it takes to lead in this moment. When scrutiny is high, the path forward is often unclear, and even self-reflection can feel risky. Pressure to participate has been significant. Participation in the index dropped from 100 employers to 60. But this shift wasn't about disinterest. It reflected the weight of the current moment. Diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts are under more pressure than ever. Decisions now often involve legal review, strategic messaging, and a deep internal reflection. And still, 60 organizations stepped forward. They chose transparency. They chose accountability. They chose progress. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. That decision is powerful. It signals not just a commitment to values, but a commitment to vision. It offers a model of leadership rooted in clarity. As we look ahead, The Vibrant Index offers more than just data. It offers a roadmap. And I want to leave you with 4 critical calls to action, pillars of practice that can move us from conversation to sustained change. First, see participation as strategy. If your organization set out this year, know that you're not alone, and the door is still open. The index isn't a test. It is a mirror. It provides clarity, highlights blind spots, and helps future-proof your culture. In times of disruption, grounding your efforts in data isn't just a good practice. It's a strategic advantage. Second, let accountability drive retention. Fewer than half of participating organizations are tracking their progress through feedback loops, councils, or metrics. But these structures aren't just operational tools. They are declarations of intent. They tell your employees, you matter, we're listening, we're growing with you. Accountability builds trust, and trust drives retention. Third, you are not alone in this work. This work is harder when it's done in isolation, but it doesn't have to be. Vibrant Pittsburgh offers roundtables, learning cohorts, coaching, and peer support, because shared learning fuels momentum, and community keeps us going, even when the climb is steep. Fourth, anchor your culture in business impact. Inclusion is strategy, and it's how organizations stay agile, innovate faster, and build resilience. Leading with culture attracts top talent, accelerates change, and delivers results that outpace the competition. What's good for people is great for business, always. To this year's cohort, thank you. Your leadership is helping shape what's possible for our region. To those who paused, we see you, we welcome you, and we believe you still have something important to contribute. The Vibrant Index was created as a resource for leaders who are looking for ways to reflect, align, and act with intention. It's not punitive, and it's certainly not performative. Our role at Vibrant Pittsburgh is to be more than evaluators. We're your partners, and our team is invested in your success. We are living in a season that calls for more care, more courage, and more clarity than ever before. But let me be clear. I believe Pittsburgh was never meant to be a region that stays silent in the face of challenge. We are meant to be bold. We are meant to be connected, and we are meant to be vibrant. Let's continue building a future where our region is known not only for what it produces, but for how it leads, how it includes, and who we become in the process. Thank you for being here with us today, for your time, your attention, and your ongoing commitment to building a more inclusive and equitable workplace across the region. The conversations we started today don't end here. We hope you'll carry them forward in your teams, in your leadership circles, and in the everyday decisions that shape your organizational culture. At Vibrant Pittsburgh, we are proud to walk alongside you as partners in this work. Know that our door is always open and our support is always available. Thank you again, and we look forward to what we'll accomplish together in the year ahead.